So remember, I'll show you various approaches on questions like this one. If once I show you the most effective approach, which is always going to be the first approach, if you feel good to go, you could just stop watching the recording. I continue to explain it for those who really want to understand it for like their math class, for example. I want to be sure to be thorough. So in a question like this, when you're given this function, and they want you to find what price, which is X, as we can see here, would earn the most profit, in other words, the Y coordinate. So we're trying to find what X coordinate would maximize or make the Y coordinate the greatest. I would just go ahead to Desmos and graph it. So let's go to the upper right corner. If we had graphed a function previously, we could just click the gear icon, choose delete all, and let's go ahead and get this to a viewing window that seems comfortable. I'm gonna zoom in a bit. I could press Control Plus to do so, or just kind of drag with my fingers if it's a touch screen. I'll go in and type this exactly the way that I see it, and I could literally put P of X. Let's actually do so. Let's put P of X equals, and then we'll type this all in, X minus 0.6, and then we'll do the same thing here, 300 minus 75x. So when we do so, I can just press enter, it'll finish the parenthesis for me. What we can essentially do, let's go ahead and look at this in a better view. Let's get this a little bit larger and get it back to a normal viewing window here. I'm gonna zoom out a bit, and I can see that it's a parabola, and so let me zoom in really on that specific peak point, in other words, the maximum. And we can see that the maximum occurs right around $2 and let's see here. Click there, I think it's there. So let's click this and then label it so we can see it really nice and clear here. So it's at about $2.30. And so we'll look for which one's closest to that, which ends up being answer option B, and we could move on. However, to show you some other ways you could do this, because I have this in function notation, I could just say, okay, let's go ahead and plug in 1. So I'll do P of 1. Let me get out of here and create one down here. So I'll do P of 1, and it shows, okay, the output's 90. All right, let me press enter. I'll do P of 2, shows me it's 210. Okay, 210 is bigger than 90, so this 2 input is producing a larger output. So far 2 is looking good. And then I could do P of 3. Oh, it looks like it's dipping at that point. And we could see the same as P of 4 gives us 0. So the biggest output was 210, which occurred when X was 2, making the correct answer B. Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, what would I do in my math class if I didn't have Desmos, but are still allowed to use a graphing calculator? Well, I do think it is good to be comfortable with your graphing calculator. So let's go ahead and graph this. We have X minus 0.6 and 300 minus 75x. And notice the normal viewing window, if I click zoom standard, which is number 6 here, ends up doing from -10 to 10 on the x-axis counting by ones and -10 to 10 on the y-axis counting by ones. Well, you can see that's kind of not really showing me much. It's difficult to see. And if I know that if I were to distribute here, it's going to be x squared with the leading coefficient being negative, I know it's a parabola. So it shouldn't look like vertical lines. Now I could zoom out if I want, but I really like pressing up to wrap around and seeing zoom fit. And so I just have to press number 0 here. And look at that, it gives me really good display of the graph at that point. So what I'm gonna do is choose second, calculate, and I wanna find the maximum. So I'll choose option number 4. And when it says left bound, I could scroll left and right to make sure I'm definitely in the direction I wanna be. I can see the maximums here, I'm definitely to the left. But if I notice by going to the window that we're going from -10 to 10 on the X, counting by ones, notice the Y scale is kind of funky. It's from -11,000 to 216, counting by ones. But on the X-axis, since we're going from -10 to 10 by 1, let me go back to calculate for the maximum, and I could just type in a value that I know is to the left, like -5. So if I type in -5, enter, it kind of creates this left bound. Now I'll do the same thing for the right bound. I'll just type in +5, and then it gives me this right bound, and now it says guess. So I'll press enter at this point, and it gives me the maximum as 2.29 which is about 2.3 like we saw, and the y coordinate being about 217. So that means that the x coordinate that would produce the largest y coordinate is 2.3, which is closest to option B.